All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little review of Eagles Bucks, which went to the Buccaneers tonight in Tampa. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle. Go get the brisket. Go get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. Well, tonight, the final game of Wild Card Weekend between the Eagles and the Buccaneers played in Tampa. And we've seen so much cold weather this weekend. It was actually nice to see a game played in regular weather conditions. The 11-6 Eagles on the road as the wild card team going up against the division-winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went 9-8 this season. And Tampa drove down the field first and settled for a Chase McLaughlin 28-yard field goal to cap a 12-play drive in a little bit under 5 minutes, and they took a 3-0 lead. So Eagles would take the ball on their first possession, and they were doing it without A.J. Brown tonight. A.J. Brown went out with an injury, a knee injury last round, and he was unable to go tonight. And Eagles would move the ball, but Antoine Winfield Jr. had a pass breakup on a third down pass play from Hurts to Dallas Goedert. That forced a punt on Philly's first offensive possession. So Tampa got it back. Mayfield hit David Moore for a big pass play. And then Zach Cunningham had a face mask. So it wound up being an absolute huge play for the Buccaneers. And then Baker Mayfield found David Moore again, this time for a 44-yard pitch and catch touchdown. 4 plays, 79 yards, and Tampa Bay's up 10-0 early on. Then a Chase McLaughlin field goal made it 13-0. The Eagles finally got on the board when Jake Elliott connected from 47 yards out to make it 13-3. And, Philly eventually said, you know what, we're benching James Bradbury, who it's amazing how quickly you go from the penthouse to the outhouse. This guy was on top of the world not that long ago, one of the NFL's better corners. Oftentimes would get a cheat on, a jump on the ball and pick off passes. He was a real force over the last year, but he's a little long in the tooth, and the Eagles benched him for rookie cornerback Kaylee Ringo, the Georgia rookie. Like Bradbury himself was the actual problem. But then Chase McLaughlin would connect again, this time from 48 yards out to make it 16-3. And that was another long drive for Tampa Bay. 13-play, 45-yard drive in 5 minutes and 56 seconds. So it looked like Tampa was going to go up into the locker room up 16-3, but Hurts found Dallas Goedert on a 5-yard pass to make it Tampa 16-9. The Eagles tried the 2-point conversion, but it failed. So they went into the locker room down 16-9. And if you looked at the halftime stats, Hurts was 14 of 20, 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 sack. DeAndre Swift had 4 carries for 16 yards. Philly had almost no running game to speak of. Devontae Smith had a big first half, 4 catches for 111 yards. Goddard with the Eagles' lone touchdown. Philly had 2 sacks on defense and 2 hits on Baker Mayfield, but Philly couldn't convert on third down at all offensively. They went 0 for 4 on third downs. They got outrushed 79 yards to 17 yards. Julio Jones also went out in this first half with a concussion. And for the Buccaneers in the first half, Baker Mayfield, 11 of 24, 174 yards and a touchdown. David Moore had 2 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. Tampa didn't have tons of hits on the quarterback. They only had 2 hits on Hurts and 1 sack, but Chase McLaughlin had 3 field goals. Tampa had a 242 to 182 total yardage edge, and Tampa was averaging 4.9 yards per carry, and they were 2-1 time of possession. They had dominated the time of possession at halftime, 1906 to 1054. So third quarter starts, and the Eagles very much were in this game. They're only down 7, but Kalijah Kancey had a big sack of Hurts on a key third down, which forced the Eagles to punt on one series. And then Baker Mayfield was sacked on a combo sack by Fletcher Cox and Nolan Smith and that forced a punt. There was a PI call against Tampa Bay that extended an Eagles drive. And then Jalen Hurts eventually, later in that third quarter, gets caught in the end zone. Anthony Nelson with the safety, Kalijah Cansey provided the pressure, and that's really where this game kind of pivoted. The Bucs got the safety off the intentional grounding in the end zone by Hurts. That gave Tampa 2 more points and an 18-9 lead, and they got the ball right back. Well, as soon as they got it back, Baker Mayfield hit Trey Palmer for a 56-yard touchdown, and that made it 25-9, and it was all over but the crying at that point. Eagles DBs missed a ton of tackles. In fact, it looked like it was 7-on-7 drill. Philly's pass defense, I don't know what happened to Philly's pass defense this year, but it's an absolute mess. They went from Jonathan Gannon as the coordinator to Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and they just didn't replace him. And then, of course, they lost Shane Steichen as well as the OC. So they lost both coordinators. They lost a key player on the back end. Their front got a little old. They missed Javon Hargrave. And suddenly the Eagles went from a team that sacked the quarterback 70 times last year to a team that sacked the quarterback 43 times this year. So fast forward, they're down 25-9. Kalijah Cansey got another big TFL on a run play in the fourth. Jake Elliott would connect for a 40-yard field goal. But then everything worked against the Eagles tonight. So Tampa was offsides. So Sirianni did normally the unthinkable, but when you're down by a lot, he took points off the board. So instead of 25-12, it went back to 25-9, and the Eagles got the ball back in that fourth and 4th and 5 from the 17. Hurts went to Devontae Smith, and it was incomplete. Carlton Davis the third with the PBU, and so the Eagles turned it over to the Bucs on downs and got no points out of it. So, you look at the way the game ended. Then Darius Slay took a kidney shot on a running play. He had to be carted off. Slay is an older defensive back who really got banged up this year. And then Baker Mayfield went to Chris Godwin for a 23-yard pitch and catch to cap a 12-play, 83-yard drive and to cap the scoring and to put a cap on the Eagles season. 32-9. Tampa gets the win over the Eagles. Okay, so what happened here with the Eagles? First of all, what happened with the Eagles this year? They were 10-1. The Niners rolled in. They spanked them at the Link, and they only won one time against the New York Giants the rest of the way. Other than that, they got absolutely boat raced. They got dominated by the Giants in the final week of the year. They lost to the Cardinals at home in an ugly game that they probably should have had. And everything came apart. Absolutely everything came apart. Hurts became more banged up. Everybody started pointing fingers. Their pass defense was bad all year. Their run defense was a strength. It finally gave way late in the year. I mean, in this game, Philly couldn't run it and couldn't stop the run. Philly averaged 2.8 yards per carry. Huge night for Devontae Smith. The former Heisman Trophy winner had 8 catches for 148. Philly's D-line did put together 4 sacks and 6 hits on the quarterback, but they could not do it on the quarterback down. They could not convert on 3rd or 4th down. In fact, the Eagles for the night went 0 for 11. 0 for 11 on 3rd and 4th down conversions. And then give Baker Mayfield credit. He gambled on himself this year. He took less money to go to Tampa, hoping to earn a contract, and he did exactly that. He was 22 of 36 for 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. His number one receiver tonight was the tight end, Cade Otton, who had 8 catches for 89 yards. But touchdowns from Baker to David Moore, Trey Palmer, and Chris Godwin were the difference in the ball game. Jamel Dean had a 10-tackle night on that Buccaneer defense. Kalijah Cansey was all over the place. He had 4 tackles, a couple hits on the quarterback, a half sack, a TFL, 3 field goals for Chase McLaughlin. That helped. Tampa had a 426 to 276 total yardage edge, and they outrushed Philly 119 to 42. And they held the ball for 34 minutes to only 26 for the Eagles. So the Eagles check out That was quick. Easy come, easy go. They were the defending conference champions from a year ago, and they get bounced in the first round by the Buccaneers. So, what are the Eagles going to do? Is Sirianni going to get dumped? I doubt it. I think they're probably going to add a new defensive coordinator. I don't think it'll be Patricia or Sean Desai. I think there's a very good chance they have a new offensive coordinator. They lost two coordinators, and they really made bad decisions on their new coordinators. Their O-line's getting a little long in the tooth. Kelsey's older. Lane Johnson's older. Their D-line with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham getting a little long in the tooth. It's they were on top a year ago, and now they checked out. I really thought in this game they would circle the wagons and show that championship medal and really fire a great effort and either win the game or lose a close game. Instead, they got destroyed by a pretty mediocre Tampa team that wasn't necessarily all that sharp. 32-9, the final. So I expect the Lions to beat Tampa next week in Detroit. So I don't think Tampa's any great shakes, but they were good enough to win tonight. And credit Baker Mayfield. A lot of people were critical of Baker Mayfield throughout his career, and with the money on the table tonight, he threw for 337 and 3 touchdowns and avoided big mistakes. So he outplayed Jalen Hurts, and Tampa's moving on to the divisional round in Motown next week. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mojo Fantasy for sponsoring this video as well. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.